Welcome to another episode of the Event Icon Show. I'm Sean Holiday, co-founder of CrowdMics. Today's guest, before we even jump into today's guest, because we're going to surprise you, let's get started. Event Icon Show, we do this weekly. Myself, Will Curran, Laura Lopez with Social Tables, we all just talk to the top event icons, the top brains and minds from all over, AV, IT, venue management, as much as you can think of, and we pick their brains on what's going on in the event industry. So help us out today with some questions. You can send us the hashtag EventIcons. You can chat right here. It's in the chat, right, Will?
They can do the chat or the question pane. The question pane is also really good.
We'll get them. Question pane's good as well. Send your friends to event-icons.com. They can jump in, listen in. If you don't get it now, it's going to be recorded and put on the blog for later. So interact as much as you can. We want to take your questions more than anything. And to get started, I'm going to introduce our guest. Today's guest is Will Curran. What? If everybody could clap right now, they would be. Come on, Will. They'd be all over this. So I'm going to give you just my little intro as a friend. This is unscripted. I'm not reading anything. This is just what I know of Will Curran. So Will started his own little DJ company back when he was in high school. Backyard parties, just all kind of playing around things, and just did it on the side, right? It wasn't really a focus or anything he was going to do.
Just for fun.
He then went to ASU, knew he was going to be an entrepreneur, started in the programs and made sure he was going down the right path there, and just kind of kept DJing. His parties just got bigger. He started doing college parties. Then he started doing parties for the college, and then he started doing parties outside of the college, and started to become this big, fun thing, and realized that Will can make money doing it. So he won. What are some of the awards that you won, Will? I don't know.
Oh, God. There's a lot of them. I mean, like everything under every age you can possibly, like 30 under 30, 40 under 40. I've done a ton of that. Inc. Magazine's coolest college startup. It's one of my favorite ones. I've personally gotten like a lot of really cool awards for like employing great people and doing great things. Won a bunch of industry awards as well.
A lot of ASU stuff, right? Too. I mean, very recognized by ASU.
Yeah. Yep. So like basically grew out ASU. So every award ASU offered for entrepreneurship, I like wanted to win it, so I went after it.
You either won it, you won it. I know some grants and different things. So
yeah, a ton of grants. Yeah.
Took what his passion was from a little kid and just loving audio, loving music, and making people happy. Really, if you think about throwing a party and being the DJ, your whole goal is to make people smile and have fun, and Will turn that into a business. Most people can't take what they love and make it a business and make money from it. Will did that. He's our guest today, and he is the founder and guy behind EventIcons. I just said, let me jump in, let me help, man. And he let me help. So he is the guy that came up with it and pushes it and gets a lot of the guests, and he is an icon himself and recognized in the event industry as one of the top influencers. So glad to have you on, Will, our good friend.
I'm super duper excited. I mean, when we were talking about what we wanted to do, something different in the coming weeks, we've done a lot of interviews with a lot of people. We thought to ourselves, man, like, we've never interviewed me, and no one knows really who I am. I mean, like, there's some people who know me, obviously, as the host, but no one really knows what I do beyond the show, and that this isn't my full-time job just running this show. So, yeah, I'm definitely really excited to be here, and I think this is the first time that I get to, like, talk to the audience a little bit more as well and get them the chance to pick the host mind as well.
I know, and I get to eat you up, man. I get to pick your brain.
I
get to drill you for once. So first question is always, if you've watched the show, we always try to start off with what got you into the event industry? Where did Will Curran start?
Oh, okay. So you started off like the beginning of the story. I was like DJing backyard parties, grew the company out of ASU. We actually called it Arizona Pro DJs because we couldn't come up with any more clever name because we're in Arizona. We were DJs and we were professional, so that was like our most like amazing creativity right there. But one thing we started doing is, like I said, the events got bigger. So I had this desire to like get more equipment, and like I loved production, so we started hiring production companies to do all this stuff. And what we realized is as the events got bigger and bigger, is that we kept having to interact with more and more different types of AV companies, production companies, and we realized, like, man, like, this production stuff is way more fun than DJing. Like, I want to own one of these companies. So we basically shut down the DJ arm of the company and started focusing just on production and realized, okay, like there is a huge opportunity here in customer service and creativity, and with bringing in automation and software automation and making the company more efficient than all these other companies that we're working with who are still, hand doing their poll sheets for what equipment was going to go out to the show. They were hand writing them, and I was just like, oh my gosh, we could do this way better. So yeah, so basically we took everything we learned from hiring AV production companies and we decided to make the best AV production company out there. And that's basically how Endless got started. I got in the industry. When I joined, I didn't know anybody. I would go to these like it was back ISIS back then, and I remember going to my first meeting and was so cowardly. And it's really funny if you think I'm very like an outward person. I'm very loud and really exciting, a little energetic. Obviously, I dance around a lot on screen. But I remember going to my first meeting and being like, I'm gonna go straight to the corner, like the high school dance, and not talk to anyone at all. And it's because I didn't know anyone, and there was all these big people in the room. And eventually, as I just hustled, I tried to get bigger events. We were able to, obtain one client after the other. Fiesta Block Party, we leveraged that to get, Phoenix Comic Con. We leveraged Phoenix Comic Con to get all the Comic Cons across the country. We leveraged that to get even more corporate clients. And it just grew and grew and grew. And before I knew it, now I'm hosting a show about the icons of the events industry. I'm the president of the ILEA chapter in Arizona. All these things in the industry, and I've just gotten so entangled into the awesomeness. And that's where I guess I am today.
How long was this process, right? Some of the people, I mean, I just started 2.5 years in the event industry. Like, what was the time frame to really dive in and know the right people and know what organizations did what, and what was that look like?
I think it's always funny whenever I'm talking and I tell people this elaborate story of how I started, and they always go like, "Yeah, so you talk about high school and college. It sounds like recent," and they don't realize a lot of times, because I think the beard hides a lot of it, how young I am. So I started this all actually when I started DJing officially when I was 17, and that was the first time I started DJing official events, and that was about 10 years ago. So to give you an idea, I turned 27. In November, 5th of November, super excited. And yeah, it's been about 10 years of work basically building up to this point. Obviously, it wasn't not an overnight success. This took years and years of hard work, tribulations, growing the company and figuring out what worked and what didn't work.
Now, at what point did you realize, right? Because a lot of, kind of DJs, right, don't necessarily live and fit in the event industry necessarily, right? It's a lifestyle business. It's friends and family and church and different things and places. When did you decide that when was the crossing point where you said, I got to be a part of ILEA and all these different groups?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's easy to succumb to I'm gonna just be my company, and it's just me, the solo operator, and to it really simply, I have a lifestyle business. But I think for me, it was when I started to see we had my freshman year of college, the Super Bowl was in town, and starting to see all these massive events pop out of it. I'm trying to think if there's any other really, really big things. I mean, I started seeing all these big events kind of pop up, and I was like, man, that's really cool. I really love to do that. And what I think I realized, it was a combination of okay, the only companies that get hired to do the cool stuff are the big companies, so I want to build a bigger company. But also that once you start doing those events, you become a big company. So it's kind of this feeding cycle. And I think it was just always this desire to push the boundaries of what we were capable of. And I think it was kind of my incessant need to improve things. And I think that we have a relentless desire to improve our client experience. I think a lot of that comes from our relentless desire just to always improve, always do things better. For example, right now we're making the switch over from QuickBooks Online over to Xero accounting. This is a stupid business example, but we're always trying to figure out, okay, is there one small tweak we can make in our business? Sure, it might save us only 5 minutes a week or 5 minutes a day, but that's how we're going to improve and keep moving to that next level. And I think that's where it kind of came from, was that I didn't want to do just backyard parties anymore.
That's exactly right. So knowing you a little deeper, having spent some good time with you, I know you love software implementation.
Yeah.
Genuinely, you actually like to take time and implement software. How do you use software as an event professional? How does it make you better at what you do?
I've always believed that automation and figuring out smoother ways to do business processes is one of the greatest ways to improve your company. And I think that, like for example, with us, a really early adoption was in the use of social media for our events. So, for example, when we were Arizona Pro DJs, we actually did tons of these high school dances. Actually, believe it or not, like we started doing high school dances. It sounds so lame, but we figured out a way to make these like epic high school dances with these like club moving lights, huge productions, like the stuff we're doing now, but on a high school level. And I think what kind of came from it was we realized, oh my gosh, like where do all these people live? And I was living I graduated just like a year ago on social media. I was like, well, if I'm gonna get clients, I gotta be on social media. And we actually, before they had Facebook pages, before social media was used for businesses, we created a Facebook group. And we just try to invite as many people to it as possible. We used it to promote. Eventually, obviously, that turned to pages. But we got a ton of awards because we were just forward thinking on the social media end of, hey, how can we get these people on here? And one of my favorite examples is that we always thought on like a guerrilla level as well of how we could get more clients and get our name out there. Because again, I was new. I was this literally 18-year-old kid in his dorm room running this company. How was I going to, topple, all these DJs that were out there? And luckily, there wasn't anyone doing the big high school dances like we were doing, so we were a pioneer on that aspect. But what we ended up doing is we took pictures at all the events, like a club photographer. If you've ever been to a club, they take tons of pictures, they hand you a card, and they want you to go to their website so they can drive traffic to their website, or now you can buy the pictures or whatever. We would just take pictures for free, and we'd even charge the client for it. And we'd hand out business cards with QR codes on it. Said, get your pictures on our Facebook page. Here's the Facebook page. And it would say, like us to get it. So, of course, most kids would think they have to like it, so we increased our Facebook numbers tenfold. We went from, 4,000 likes to 10,000 in a year. And what's great about it is that we actually put in all the captions. We wrote it in third person. We'd write like something like, oh my gosh, I had so much fun at Desert Vista's high school dance. I can't wait for the next one. P.S. Like Arizona Pro DJs on Facebook here. And what was great, if you remember Facebook back then, when you got tagged in a picture, it would post that caption at the top on your newsstream, so it looked like the person in the picture wrote that description. So it was like having every single person that got tagged as an endorser for us, and we blew up like crazy. Like everyone was like, "Where are these Arizona Pro DJs? I gotta get these guys at my dance." And so that was just a small example of how we use technology to leverage it. And now it's using things like Zapier. The tools have just gotten more expensive and I guess more complex, right? Like HubSpot. We're using HubSpot to do all of our marketing. We use all cloud-based inventory management to track where all the equipment's going across the country. And what we realized is like, if we can squeak just even a couple more minutes of efficiency out of the day, that's going to be how we are able to topple big companies that are out here saying, we're still using Outlook servers, we're still doing things by hand, and we're still having to answer our calls, and I can't answer my call when I'm traveling because I don't have a SIM card when I'm in Ireland. Whereas we figured out, hey, we can do it digitally, we can answer our phones anywhere, wherever we are. So I think that's just an idea, like better serving our customers, squeaking out efficiencies, and to be honest too, I just love playing around with technology too.
and I think just doing a quick comparison of other production or not just event production but AV production type guys. It's almost like it's an experience, right? And not even an experience necessarily that you're creating, right? Because a lot of guys can come in and put nice lights and flooring and different things. An experience in the fact that these attendees, not just the DJs, like at Comic-Con and other big events, they want to follow Endless. Like they want to follow the production company, which is different and interesting compared to a lot of other groups where it's like they're not even forward-facing. Nobody even knows who they are. It's like, who did this event? And you finally find out who the vendor was, whereas like the feel of Endless is that it's like you're a part of the team. Like people go and follow you because they want to be and know what Endless is doing next. And so what is Endless doing next? I mean, on that topic, I mean, what's next for Endless?
Yeah, I mean, we're always working on something crazy, and a lot of it I do share on the internet. There's a lot of it I can't share, unfortunately. I have some really cool news I literally can't talk about, but there's definitely a lot of things stirring in the pot for sure. But
tell us about the article you recently wrote about Uber, right?
Oh yeah.
A little bit of kind of those topics that you're interested in.
That's definitely something big that we're doing. So for those who don't know, like Endless is basically a nationwide AV company. So we have hubs all over the country. We have people, San Francisco to New York to Miami, Orlando, Chicago, Michigan, everywhere. So what we did is a couple years ago, we made the decision to kind of forward change and do things a little bit differently from everybody else. And I promise, guys, like I'm not doing this from my high horse. As some of the comments in this article, I got a ton of flack when I wrote this article, so I guess that means I'm doing something right. But I wrote an article about Uber's $10 million settlement, and basically, if you haven't heard about it, check out our blog, helloendless.com/blog. It's like right there. I published it last week, and basically, it was about how there's a difference between W-2 employees and 1099, and how Uber is getting in trouble with not paying overtime and all these other things, and how they 1099 all of their employees. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, this is exactly why I wrote the article. And that's what I think a big reason I got a lot of flack for it. A lot of people came back and were like, well, hey, you're not coming from the right angle. You're not explaining this the right way. This is, you're not a lawyer. You can't explain this. To be honest, it wasn't meant for me to dive deep into explaining what's better, W-2 or 1099. As we did at Endless, we made the decision to move all of our guys to W-2 in full time. They only worked for our staff. But instead was to educate the industry on this. And I think that's a big part about where Endless is going. And what we've been working on the last 2 years is we're just trying to educate the entire industry to understanding the pitfalls of AV, the things that people need to know about that no one's talking about. Like, no one's talking about 1099 versus W-2 because it's not sexy, but it's something really big that affects all of your employees' lives. It affects your life as well if you're an employee. As an owner, it affects you too because, man, if you were to ever get audited or something goes wrong with them, you just don't want that to happen. So we wrote that article to basically, like, I think it did what it needed to do. I lighted a fire under the industry saying, let's talk about this. And now people are talking about it. People are saying, hey, we need to write follow-up articles to this and talk more about it. I'm like, perfect. That's all I wanted to do with it. And I think that's a big thing Endless is doing is let's talk about everything and let everyone know, and let's have open conversations about, why are venues charging us for these fees? Why is AV hard to understand? All those sort of things. I think that's a big part about where Endless is going is we're shifting almost, obviously we're still servicing, big AV clients, big corporate events, big parties every year, but we're also becoming almost our secondary company inside of ourselves is like an educator as well.
I completely agree, and I know you're a super fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. You're a big fan of the HubSpot, mentality of if you provide good content, right, provide value, that they'll find the value in you. And so kind of being that thought leader and be willing to take the risk of talking about 1099 versus W-2 and what that means. And the hospitality and the service industry is one of the biggest of those who use the 1099 and the W-2, right? Most people are like, I just go to work and then they take my taxes out and like I'm okay, right?
Exactly.
Especially AV and you look at the hospitality as far as like janitorial and those kind of services, they're very heavy on, I don't really need them full time, but I don't know if I should just pay them 1099 and kind of going back and forth. So on that topic of thought leadership and you writing a bunch of good content, where did you come up with EventIcons? I mean, what's the goal here? What are you trying to do? Are you just trying to get in front of a bunch of people and look good, or what do you really want to do with this thing?
Gosh, yeah. It was twofold. There's a part of it that was selfish, and there's definitely a part of it that was completely unselfish. But I think that's where like the marriage of great ideas come from. So I'll talk about the selfish part because it's the easiest to explain. So it was like, I think in November of last year, someone had, it was even earlier, I think, maybe even the summer, someone had talked about this platform called Blab. And they're like, this thing's taking off, it's the next big thing. And I was like, wow, there's another video streaming platform. And I'm very like, because I do so much social stuff, I'm constantly like, I don't pay attention to social networks until it's like the point where, like, if I'm not on it, things are going to go bad. Because there's just too many popular days. So Blab, whatever, I blew it off. And then we were sitting here, and I think I got invited. Yeah, I was on someone's Blab. They were interviewing me, talking about my entrepreneurial journey and how I started my company, and I was using it, and I was like, this thing is so cool. You can like click on people's faces and give them props, and the chat's going crazy, and it was so interactive, and it was so easy that I was like, why aren't we doing this for the events industry? Why doesn't this exist? And no one was really using it yet. And then subsequently, a lot of people end up using it, which is really awesome. So the selfish part of it was that I wanted to play around with Blab and utilize a new platform and see what it was like producing this show. You know, to be honest, we got 5 episodes in, we would have been like, it'd been cool. But what I realized is as I thought about it more and I started, I was on a second Blab, I think. I realized that the platform was all about the audience and you guys rather than me over like just preaching and talking, interviewing Sean. And we had Sean, we had you like on the second episode or something like that, right? And I realized, like, especially once I did that second episode, how like the chat was just blowing up, and you guys were getting to ask the questions. Which, by the way, if you guys like ask me anything right now, go on the question panes, go on Twitter. Please let me know what's burning in your mind that you have questions about, and I want to answer it for sure. So, for example, Alex was asking me, "Am I going to be at IMEX?" The answer is yes. Am I going to be at HubSpot Inbound? Yes. So ask those questions because I want to answer them for you guys. I might answer it privately if we're going along too, just since some of them are really awesome too. But that's where you see me chatting. Anyway, so I loved it. I loved the energy that we got from the audience, and I loved that Joe Schmo, the planner who maybe plans events in Idaho and maybe does a corporate conference for 50 people, could ask, David Adler, the CEO of BizBash, questions about event planning, something that you could normally do on Twitter, but you get only 140 questions. But this was a chance to really see people in person, talk to them a little bit further, and I think that was really where the energy kind of came from on that end. And, you know, to be honest, it was also just a test to see, like, could we make this work? And what I realized is as I started reaching out to the people I thought were icons of the events industry, like Sean, Laura, who ironically now co-hosts of the show, you know, like David, reaching out to all these big people, is that they were all like, yeah, I'm in 100%. And I was like, wow, like, if I am able to get our guests this easily, there's something here for sure. And so now we're on episode, what are we on, episode like 29, 30, something like that. I don't even count it anymore because we're getting so high. We're almost coming on 1 whole year of doing this. And it's just been an awesome journey so far. And I guess I can talk more about like the pitfalls and bad things and the things I've learned through doing it. But it's definitely been about like power to the people and power to the audience. Alex left a comment in the question pane saying, I missed the chat. So one thing is that we did, I guess I'll let you ask a question if you want to about the GoToWebinar transition, but definitely I missed the chat too, Alex.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. So you mentioned it started on Blab. That was kind of almost selfish that you wanted to really check out the platform, and this would be an easy way to get people to come and play around with it. What caused the transition from Blab to here, GoToTraining, and then what would you change if you could change anything?
Yeah, I think like I guess let's start with the transition and why it happened. At this point, I can talk about more pitfalls of it, but we were always running into issues with the show, and I think this just is a testament to my ability to predict social media networks really well. But we were like, Blab, this is the next big thing. But it was something like, I want to say 4 or 5 episodes. I remember David Adler's episode was the example one. We would just like have horrible episodes where the connection would just be bad. People would drop out. We'd have trouble connecting. Like, it was just chaotic. Like, it hit or miss on the technology side. But as time went on, it started getting worse. It like got better, and then it got worse and worse and worse. And we had like 2 episodes, I think, in a row where we had like horrible connections, people getting dropped out. Like, Laura wouldn't be able to log in as a host. I wouldn't be able to log in. Like, we were just like, it was insane. And I realized, I was like, okay, at this point we're like 15, 20 episodes, I think, in, or whatever we're at. And we need to figure out a way to make this more consistent and better for our audience. At this point, we have people, you guys, tuned in right now. I'm seeing you guys in the question pane, and I see you guys logging in right now. This is for you guys. And if you guys are having a hard time being able to listen and digest the content, then it's not worth doing. So we said to ourselves, okay, we got to make this more consistent. And believe it or not, I feel like I'm going to get like a bunch of emails after this with ideas on things, but there's not a lot of platforms that allow simultaneous video broadcasting in this Brady Bunch style, similar to Blab, where like Sean's right next to me, someone can be below me, and you see everyone at once. We didn't want to do Hangouts because Hangouts was just as buggy. I've always had issues with it, but also I don't like the idea that it's one person on screen switching back and forth, because it doesn't allow for me to say, hey, show Sean, and then bounce around, and you can't see Sean bouncing around, hanging out, like agreeing and nodding his head, right? I love that. And so we want to make that decision, and GoToWebinar was like the best option. Citrix is just a very stable company. The platform was really stable. We tested it for like about a week, and we made sure it was really good. But also, we could integrate it into HubSpot, so we could do a lot more marketing automation to help out as well. So, for example, when you sign up, we could send reminders to you via email saying, hey, check out the show in a day, check out the show in an hour. Whereas Blab, we had to do everything via social media and blast it out that way. And it was just really hard and very manual, whereas this was very more automated, allowed us to focus on getting the best guests possible rather than promoting the show. So I think that was the big reason why was technology sucked, and then there was just a way better way to do it. But there's definitely drawbacks to GoToWebinar. We lose the chat, we lose like the props feature where you can click on people's faces, but the improved, I think one of the things we get is an improved quality in video as well, so you can actually make out that that's Batman and not just a blurry figure standing on me.
Recording is much better, and to be completely honest, it's a good gatekeeper, meaning those that want to come and listen to the EventIcons register, they get the emails ahead of time, they know they've got to come in and download the app for, a GoToMeeting, and so it's a good gatekeeper as well to see who really enjoys and wants to be a part of what we're doing in the industry.
I've noticed that for sure too. I mean, like our audience, you guys who are here right now, I mean, we can actually tell based on your metrics how attentive you are, and the attentiveness is just massive. And the people you stay longer. I've noticed that people come in from the very beginning and they stay to the very end. Whereas before, when we were in Blab, because it was just a link and you could get in real quick, people would come in for 5 minutes and then pop out, which obviously is not ideal to facilitating a conversation.
Yeah. So I think just fluidity and. We know, I mean, we're both founders and trying to run our own companies, that taking the time out of your schedule to come really means a lot. And so we wanted the platform to be super smooth and ready. So Will, give us a little background. I've got some good questions here. We've got Alex throwing some stuff in. He misses the chat, as we all do. I mean, we gotta push better, Will, actually, on Twitter. I think we could do some pretty decent chat there. We need to push the hashtag a little bit more.
So right now, all you guys tuned in, go on Twitter right now and tag hashtag EventIcons and mention your favorite quote so we can see what your favorite quote has been so far, or maybe tell us something that you've learned so far with the show. I'd love to see that in the chat, but I agree, I definitely want to improve the Twitter communication and get a tweet chat going with everyone as we're going along. So
another kind of question suggestion was from Curran. Mentioned that I just recently attended a Stephen Dotto's WebinarPalooza, a great opportunity for attendees. 8 different webinar platforms. Should check out Huzza, Huzza.
Huzza.
I've heard of that one.
See, that's the thing I love about technology too. There's always like a million different tools out there that like are available for us to use. Like GoToWebinar is obviously a choice of one that we chose, but there's just so many more. I mean, I will preface it. I mean, like I don't want to, you guys, the audience watching, my goal is like as much as the platform would be awesome to switch over these things. Eventually, it's just another platform, and while we could slightly change here and there, like how much different would it be? So my hope is just to make something consistent and make the experience as consistent as possible. You know exactly where to go every single week, and you know what to do, and you don't always have to guess, where's that next episode going to be? And I think that's something that when we were using Blab, it was always guessing where are people going to be able to make it in today. We'd have episodes with 100 people, 200 people, 300 people sometimes.
When you're on the when you become a panelist and you're going to be on our show, we have a 30-minute pre-show where we make you come on and check your mics. For GoToMeeting, it's almost like not necessary. We're like, come 30 minutes if you can, but if you can't, like 10 minutes is fine. Yeah. With Blab, every 30 minutes was used. Every second, Will's like, I can't, it's breaking. But somebody from Blab, help us out. And then they'd like restart the server, and we'd have to like boost it. A literal nightmare, and so
that's my favorite part. I love that you shared the behind the scenes because no one knows about. We have a 30-minute pre-show where it was designed because Blab had so many technical issues to use it, and now we don't have to use it as much. Most people are like, we're 15 minutes in to the tech check, and we're like, all right, you guys can go get like a glass of water and hang out for like 15 minutes, and we'll see you back here when the show starts.
So tell us, Will, talking about behind the scenes, give us an idea right? Where myself and Laura came in, how that conversation started, and then
Yeah.
give us an idea or just some insight on what it takes to get David Adler or Dahlia
Yeah.
or these big guys to be on the show. How many people are behind the scenes, time that you have to invest? Because I know
Yeah.
everybody has this, I want to build content. I want to do a podcast or a show. Give us some background. Give us some idea of what that looks like.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, okay. So I'll start with the story of how you guys got involved and how many people are involved in doing this. While it is not my full-time job to do the show, sometimes I think it feels like it's our full-time job, especially in those crazy weeks, which I'll kind of explain in a little bit. And no one really sees this. And I was thinking about myself in the shower today for whatever reason about like Jimmy Fallon's show has to do with this every single time too, right? Like every single time Jimmy Fallon has to get someone on as a guest, they have to do the exact same thing: find the person, design all the questions and activities and all these things like that. Like I can't imagine like they have a full-time staff to do that sort of stuff. We do it with just 3 people, other than me. Yeah, so the story behind Event Icons was we did this every week because I thought every week was awesome, and until like I was doing this for every week for like 3 months, and I was like, oh my god, this is so much. This takes up a lot of time. It was just me at the time too, and then because I didn't want to take anyone else's resources until I'd proven this was going to work, right? Uh, so we did that for a little while, and then the issue with me is so because we're nationwide, I travel like crazy. I just got back 2 months in Europe, as everyone's commenting and saying Will's back in the chat, I spend a lot of time like next week I'm in this place, and then I'm in Boston, then I'm in Chicago, then I'm in Miami, and I'm just traveling for all these events all the time, and it became harder and harder for me to do the show. So I made the hard decision of moving it to monthly. So we had more time to get guests. And what the issue became is when we were doing weekly is that it was really hard that every week you'd be prepping, promoting, getting the guests, and then reset, do it again next week. And a lot of times we had to plan out guests for 2-3 months ahead, and that's like 8 or 9, 10, 11 guests. And that's only if there's like one person. If there's like 3 people on the show, it's like 30 guests that you're scheduling and figuring out all this stuff for. So it became too hard. So I decided to make the tough call and move it monthly. And that's when Sean and Laura just like came in. And I know Sean really well because we're both in Phoenix, and we're both like in that awesome AV space. And we also like have amazing hair, and we hang out all the time at IMAX and all these conferences like that. So Sean was like, "Dude, I was talking to Laura, and we miss Event Icons. Like it used to be every week. We need to get back to weekly." And I was just like, "You guys don't understand. Like it's just so hard." Like, and I think you guys are like, "How hard can it be?" Right?
You were like, "Dude, we just want the show back. Like, do it. Just make it happen."
And I was like, "No, I don't know, guys. It's a lot of work. Like, we gotta figure this out." And you guys were like, "No, we just gotta do it." I was like, "All right." And your guys' energy was just like what pushed me to be like, "Okay, we're gonna figure this out. Like, I know these guys. They're gonna work their bones off until we, figure out a way to make this happen." So we decided to go back weekly, and like I think it became apparent of you and Laura like really fast that you guys are like, "Oh my God, there's like a lot you have to do." So to give
We
you an
were
idea,
legit like, maybe let's not do weekly. Actually, I like monthly. I like monthly.
yeah,
That
maybe
sounds good.
bi-weekly or whatever. Yeah, like every other week. Yeah, and so to give you guys an idea of all the work that has to go in. So the first thing is we have dates and weeks obviously all planned. That's the lucky thing. We're not like guessing what day it's going to be on, picking days. We know it's every week, so we have like a list of weeks that we have to fill out. And then the conversation goes one or two ways. We're like, there's this one person we really want to have on the show. Like, we want to have David Adler because he's CEO of BizBash, and we'll design a topic around that. Or a lot of times we're like, oh, for example, I don't want to give away any future episodes. So, for example, we want to talk about like event ROI because that's like everyone's hot topic right now. So we'll choose ROI, and then we'll say, oh, you know what? This person talks a lot about that. They'd be awesome for this. Let's find this person. Oh, this person would be great. Like the people that we know as icons of the events industry, and we reach out to them. And that's where like the hardest part is because you kind of have an idea. You're like, I want them to be this week. But then if that person comes back and says, no, I'm not available, all of a sudden you have to scrap that whole idea, push it back, start working on another idea. We do that probably 4 or 5 times a week where we have like a date solidified and guests, and we just have to get the first guest to start solidifying everything, but then we have to push it back. So we have an unending list of topics that we're always working with on this show, which is so much fun. So Sean and Laura are really awesome. That obviously we all know a lot of people, so we reach out to you, Event Icons, and say, hey, can you be on the show? Sean's pretty much in charge of all of outreach. Laura's in charge of like content, so she puts together the themes and the questions, and tries to make sure that we're staying on topic with the conversation. And then I also have another person that you guys actually don't even know, but Tara, who's my assistant. She gets a lot of praise. So she's like never here, and I think no one's ever heard of her. But she gets a lot of praise because she's the one who works on like all the back end logistical stuff. She does the calendar invites. She makes sure the docs are set up. She makes sure the automations are working well. She makes sure that the panelists have all the information. There's just so much. And so every week we probably put in like 10 hours a week, I'd say, per into the show, aside from the show itself, of emailing people. I mean, would you say that's fair, Sean? I mean, you do a ton of outreach too.
Yeah, so I hit, and it staggers, right? Some people, yeah, I'm in here, I'm in for 6 weeks, I'm in a year out, put me on the list. You know, they filled the forms, and so we're constantly, and not just like, okay, we're going to do one on associations. It's like, we got to have 3 people for associations, and to get them all wrangled up, and so we spend a lot of time, but of anybody, Will still spends the most time and effort and brain power and really kind of going after it. So
That's fun.
It's
what was the second part of that
show.
question? There was a second part of that question, right? Everything that goes into it.
No, just the depth of kind of what's next as far as behind the scenes,
Yeah.
So us coming onto the show, and then what it takes. We're kind of the 2 parts of that question. Love the chats, Alex and Karen, kind of just throwing in their suggestions on maybe platform changes or usages. So we appreciate that. Better check Twitter, Will. I don't know if you've got that up.
Yeah, I do have Twitter. There's no questions up on Twitter yet, so submit your questions, #EventIcons, submit them on Twitter. I say over here because my Twitter is over here, and the question pane's over here. But wherever your Twitter is.
She went to Twitter, and she did use the hashtag, so we appreciate that.
Yes, and Karen loves Event Icons. She actually sent me an email. And by the way, you guys as attendees, I read every email you send us, believe it or not. Like, even though I don't respond to all of them, because sometimes you guys are just like so much blowing up our email boxes afterwards, but I read every single one of your guys' emails, and actually, I think I do respond to every single one. I don't think there's an email I've not been able to respond. But definitely, if you guys have like questions or ideas, or you want to see a guest on the show, tweet us and email us, and we get all that information. And we've designed episodes around what you guys have wanted to see. We definitely go there for definitely taking your guys' suggestions and incorporating them into the show. We have some real, I don't want to talk about future episodes, but we have some really amazing episodes. I guess one thing we didn't talk about is we actually do a weekly meeting too before this call, before our show, where we actually plan all the episodes, and we just nailed out the rest of the year of topics, and you guys, events that are amazing, that are super iconic, and people that are just really, really cool that we're gonna have on the show. So stay tuned. It's going to be really, really awesome. So
kind of on that topic, two parts to this next question. I like 2-part questions.
I love it. As long as you remind me the second part, because my mind's thinking so fast.
That's right. Who's been your favorite guest, if you had to pin one down? Who was maybe the funnest or the most interesting and the most controversial? And then what's been your favorite, going back to Endless, what's been your favorite event to produce, to run?
That's cool. That's a good question, because it's like 2 sides of my brain: the event icon side of my brain and the Endless side of the brain. So I'll start with the easy question, which is what's my favorite event, because a favorite guest is really hard.
It's going to be hard.
And so favorite event is got to be, it's starting to become a tie. So should I tease them about next week's episode at all? Since it's technically, I think it's related to this. So I'll tell you guys what next week's episode is. But one of my favorite events, it's definitely, I think it's probably my favorite now, because we've worked with them so many years, and they are everywhere behind here. But if I can grab them. One of my favorite companies is Funko, and they have this big event that we work with them on called Funko Fun Days. And essentially what it is a big fan appreciation event. So I know there's a bunch of fans in here because every single time I talk about this company, it seems to blow up on chat and Twitter. Everyone wants to talk about what pops do you have, how's your collection growing of flash pops, everything like that. But they do this fan appreciation event where it used to be this small 400-person event. And I'm not going to give too much away because the story behind it is fanatic and, no pun intended, amazing. And they basically we took the event from 400 people in a boring ballroom with all the lights on to this massive event with 2,000 people with crazy lights and everything like that. And if you want to see the video of the event, head over to our website and check it out. But it's one of my favorite events because A, I'm a fan. So obviously, like, as a fan, I'm going to really enjoy the event. But also, B, I love it because Mike Becker, who we're going to have on the show next week, is the founder of Funko and actually, like, kind of the brain master behind the entire event now. And he basically just is always like, he is thinking so many creative ideas ahead of us, and we're always just like trying to figure out how can we execute these ideas. And a lot of times we throw him back an idea, and he's just like, I love it. Let's figure out a way to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And that's like the dream client everyone has, right? Like, especially on a creative aspect, you want someone who's going to be like, yes, and let's figure it out. Like later, right, kind of thing. And because of that, their event is just taken every year, just leaps and bounds ahead of where it's been. So it's one of my favorite events for sure, A, as a fan, but also just from a creative aspect, we do get to do some really cool AV stuff, some really fun stuff, and Mike Becker will get to talk more about that next week. So don't mix next week's episode, how they went from 400 people to 2,000, and I don't want to talk about where it's going after that, but it's getting even bigger.
So on that same topic, Cody O'Malley is asking, what's the largest, kind of most intricate event that you've ever kind of been a part of?
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to circle back because this is the one few times I'll actually remember the second part of your question. So favorite guest, and then I'll answer that question too, unless we want to come back to favorite guests.
We'll come back to favorite guests.
Okay, come back to favorite guests. That gives me more time to think about it. Okay, most intricate event. So I've done some really freaking awesome events. One of which, so I'll talk about a couple different examples. Funko was really elaborate. They had like 10,000 cues in that one 3-hour show. It was like every second there was a cue of a video playing, an audio thing happening, an actor walking out, a script that had to be read, an effect like confetti that had to fly. There was things going on constantly. So that was a really complex event. We used software to manage all the cues and communicate them headsets. Using a lot of technology to manage 10,000 cues in 3 hours. But let's think of more elaborate than that. That's pretty elaborate. One of my favorite events, I think the most high pressure. Let's talk about pressure for a second. So AV is probably the most, I think after just event planning in general, has the second most amount of pressure than everybody else. Everyone else, like, floral design, you get to set up your stuff and leave it. Does like your decor, you can set it up and leave it. AV is like the little things. And if something goes down, how do you fix it? So one of my favorite events is the Fiesta Bowl Block Party. Fiesta Bowl Block Party, unfortunately, does not exist anymore. Rest in peace. It was an amazing event. And the Fiesta Bowl, if you haven't heard of it, is like the third largest bowl, I think, in the States. And we actually host it here in Arizona. Well, it's actually right around New Year's. I think it's a couple days after New Year's. And so what they would do is they'd have this block party. And what they would do is they shut down an iconic street in Arizona, Phoenix, called Mill Avenue. It's like right near ASU. It's like where all the bars are, and they shut it, take down the entire street, and it's massive. Well, the event, we did it, had over 100,000 people show up, and we weren't expecting 100,000. I think we were expecting like 50,000, maybe 60,000. 100,000 people showed up, and we built this gigantic club structure in the middle of the intersection. And what was so high pressure about it is that not only did you build this gigantic structure with 100,000 people surrounding it, how do you get sound to 100,000 people, how do you get them to see the big countdown, how do you get them to do this, but we had like this elaborate queue that we had to launch for New Year's, which when basically, this is when I was still DJing and doing video DJing, I hit go on my video and it had audio going with the video, and it built up to the time, basically the countdown, right? And I had to hit it exactly at the specific time. So then that way it launched off with confetti, CO2, fireworks that were a mile away, and video content, like an MC, like we had all these things going on to happen at this event, and literally right at midnight, the video goes off, the confetti goes off, the CO2 goes off, and it was so intense. And I'm not gonna lie, the most nerve-wracking moment of my life was hitting play and being like, please make it to midnight. Please make it to midnight. I was just so afraid it was gonna freeze, because like Murphy's Law, it's gonna freeze on like 2 seconds left in the countdown, and I was gonna be hosed. Like for whatever reason, Murphy's Law was gonna happen. And luckily it didn't, and it went off without a hitch, but it ended up getting named like the top 5 places to celebrate New Year's by USA Today, which was huge. And then unfortunately the event didn't happen the next year because of all the Fiesta Bowl scandals that happened. But I just can't imagine if that event kept going. I think Times Square would be like second place now.
So on that topic, I don't have to ask any more questions. They're all coming in, which is awesome. So Karen's asking, you're doing an event and can only select one item of event tech to use. Which would you select? Or in other words, what's your favorite event tech?
Damn, that's a good question. That's like the island question. I just asked someone.
It's exactly what it felt like. You're on an island. You can only.
I'm on an island. I always tell people the island. It's like pretzels, my laptop, and like a battery or something like that to be able to use my laptop. Everyone was like, "Why pretzels?" I'm like, "I love pretzels." Event tech that I would take.
That's tough, man.
I think it's not. Yeah, I mean, like, obviously I can go very broad, and, like, I think my laptop is one of the most, like, versatile things I could ever use for an event, because I can use, for show layouts, I can use it for communication. We ran Control-Alt-Delete off of Slack, and, like, we've ran events and used Slack as, like, comms for our team. So there's a lot of versatility, I think, in your computer, and then, therefore, your phone as well. I think as far as event tech goes, I think for us, like on the AV side, something that has been so crucial and so important has been CAD designs, computer-assisted designs, where we do 3D renders of the event. And I think a lot of times it gets overlooked, especially for smaller events. But even for small events, I only have like 2 screens and a couple microphones, and like seems like a basic event. We've had it where like a client walks in and is like, I need the screen to move 3 feet that way because we're expecting to put this here, and you're like, oh my gosh, we already built all this. It's going to take us an hour to move all this stuff. And, like, it's 30 minutes till doors. And if we had just had a CAD design that showed where everything was going to be, it would have saved our butts for sure. To be honest, I think CAD designs for us on the AV side are just so helpful for a client communication standpoint that we can show what it looks like, but also just making sure that everything's in the right place. But then also on a technical perspective, too, they also help us out because we just show it to our staff, and we're like, here's what the event's going to look like. And they're like, got it. And there's not like 500 questions going back and forth of, where's this go? Where's this going? Is this light connecting this? What light is getting power from here? Which DMX run is this for? So yeah, CAD designs I think it's like my go-to tech.
It's crucial. It's crucial to especially and as well, like, so if Social Table is on, if Laura's on right now, I mean that's what they do. That's all they do. So
and Social Tables is like an awesome. If you don't have CAD software, you can't do CAD. Social Tables is like great starting place because at least you're saying here's where everything's going from a 2D perspective and make sure everything goes in the right way.
So Alex is asking, Will, what's your favorite event industry event? So what's your go-to?
That's a Mike McAllen question.
That's good.
Mike McAllen used to ask that in his podcast too. Still asks that question in his podcast. Yeah. To be honest, so like because I was that cowering kid back then, I don't actually enjoy networking events, believe it or not. I like producing events, I like being at events, but I don't like actually going to events. It's really weird. Unless it's like a DJ and like it's drum and bass and there's loud electronic music. Yeah. So if you can do like an EDM festival for event professionals, I'll be at that one. But I think that one of my favorites is probably, I mean, like we were just talking about a couple hours ago, was IMEX, mainly because it's close by. It's in Vegas, so me and Sean were talking about it's like literally like a 4-hour drive from Phoenix, so you can get to it really easily. But it's also not like ridiculously expensive. You're not in like having to stay in a fancy hotel. You don't have to be far away, and you can literally just go and take your car there, and there's tons of parking and everything like that. So I think it's like the most accessible event. Plus, it's free, and I think so many people go to it. I think that's why I like it so much. And because there isn't like because it's free, you don't feel this need to like go to everything to soak it all up. You just feel like I'm just gonna go to the event, I'm gonna enjoy my time, spend some time with Sean, spend some time with Dahlia, hang out with Tahira, say hi to David Adler, you know, like hang out with all the icons. And I think that's why it's one of my favorite industry events for sure. One of my favorite ones as well is we actually locally here for the ILEA International Live Events Association chapter, we do a yearly award show for the events industry. And I think that it's really, really cool because it's hyper local for us to say, we're putting in all the big names in the Arizona events industry. And even though we're a national company, I really am all about supporting the Arizona events industry because it's like my home, that's where I live. And I love it because like every company rallies together to make this event happen. And for example, like for our event, we have 4 different vendors that are doing like furniture, decor, and all these things like that. And in the real industry, they'd all be competing, right? They'd all be like the 4 companies you'd bid against, right? That you'd be putting your stuff against. And during the day, you're like, I hate my competition. They stole that bid. They undercut me, or whatever it is. But for this one night only, everyone comes together and donates everything to make this event happen. And I think it's really cool because it shows that, hey, if we weren't all being so competitive and so like cutthroat about getting the lowest cost and everything like that, like, man, our events would just be so awesome. Life would be so nice and everything like that. So I think that's one of my favorite events as well because it's just a testament to that of our industry and bringing everything together.
So Alex is at IMX. We got to remember that.
Yes.
We're trying to do a local, like a live show.
Shh, don't tell them.
So
tell them.
I gotta leak it. It's that good.
This is a good episode. What's going on. Yeah, there's gonna be some IMAX event icons presence for sure. Be ready.
Looks like you got another event icon behind you.
Oh yeah. That's Iris. If anyone wants a kitten, I am trying to get rid of kittens right now. I have too many cats already.
If you got any more questions, throw them in. I'm going to start wrapping up with Will, asking kind of our closing questions.
This hour went fast.
I know. That was really fast. So, and it's only 2 guests. It's only you. Usually we have like 3 guests, and it's like, wow, that's pretty fast. This is a good one. So, if you had to pick one thing, what would be your #1 tip for event planners this year?
I should have seen this question coming because it's like the questions we ask everyone.
So you should have known.
Oh, man. So, shoot.
#1 tip for event planners this year.
It's like, I talk so much about AV and like production stuff. I'm trying to think what's relevant and timely as well. Let's see. I think so. One tip I think I would have is that don't be afraid to just reach out and talk to people that you want to know. So I guess to go back to the EventIcons thing, we never thought we'd have all these amazing people on the show. And I never thought I'd get connected with these amazing people. But because we reached out and just said, hey, take a chance, be on our show. And because we obviously built up like the reputation for what it is now, but talking to these people has yielded some of the most amazing conversations, amazing opportunities, just going out and putting yourself out there and saying like, hi, I'm Will, and being not only just like, not just trying to sell yourself, not saying like, hi, I'm Will with Endless, we do AV, hire me for AV, buy my stuff, right? Really annoying. But instead, just build friendly relationships, because I think the best opportunities that I've ever gotten are when you treat people the way you want to be treated, and you take care of them the way you would want to be treated. And, people will see that, and especially in an industry where, any industry or any business where people are more about the dollars and growing their companies than they are about building relationships, you will stand far above the rest, for sure.
So it's a long play, right? Patience sounds like is part of this idea that you have, that it's not just about the immediate gratification and satisfaction of, okay, we just met, like we're gonna do business now, like good to meet you, Will. You're my guy.
With the inbound stuff we were doing, when we do it, we knew we weren't going to make money like writing content tomorrow. We knew we weren't going to like all of a sudden get a call the next day and be like, I saw you wrote a blog about LED screens. Can I buy your LED screen? Instead, we're just like, let's help people. And I can tell you, oh my gosh, all the time, our oldest blogs that we wrote a long time ago that we're just like, hey, let's just educate people on lasers. Like, oh my gosh, yielded great results for us.
Yeah, because you become the thought leader. You become the guy that knows, like, oh, man, what lasers? And then it's like, I'm going to call Will. He's the guy.
Yeah,
so
or I'm going to Google it, and then we pop up.
That's exactly right. So, cool resource, app, book, tools that you want everybody to know. You're my go-to. Like, when I'm like, damn, what should I be using? I call Will. I'm like, hey, Will, what should I be using, bro? And you're like, I would use this.
Yeah.
All right.
There's only two.
Just to give you a heads up, so in this, when he was in like hyper content mode, like every day putting out content, Einstein's favorite. I mean, just he had this whole crazy thing. He's like, hey, Sean, dude, you should write like a thought leadership post for us. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Next thing I get like this process, like, okay, well, you got to first fill out this, and then you got to fill out this, and then you're going to be putting this Trello board here. And I was like, whoa, this guy's got this thing dialed in. So Will's my go-to guy. Give us some tips, tricks, apps, things you love, can't live without. Go.
Well, luckily I've been leaking out my favorite ones like every week whenever we do a show. So I think that there's like, if you ever want to hear my stuff, I think go check out old episodes. I'm just gonna spitfire my favorite stuff, so we can have a huge resource list on the website. By the way, we list all these resources on our blog. So if you haven't already, go to the blog, subscribe, so you can go back and check out the resources the following week when we post this episode. For all our live people and all our non-live people, tune in live. But definitely event icons, like sign up, like come in and watch this show live. Like there's nothing more exciting than interacting with the guests and chatting with us in person versus just watching this on Wistia and our blog. So I think that's one important thing, and that's a self-plug.
Before you start, Alex says Will's favorite resource is the event icons resource list. So one of your favorite resources is the resource. Yeah.
Which is going to be funny when we list it, because it'll be like resource inception, because it'll be a resource inside of resource inside of resource.
It's like endless. I mean, look at your shirt. It's just going to be the endless resource list. You're in.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm going to spitfire on a bunch of stuff. One quick cool resource I've been digging very much, I just upgraded, so we started paying for the premium version. I think I mentioned it, is Drift. Dolly actually introduced me to it. It's a chat software for your website. I think it's just drift.com, and basically you plug this in your website and you can have a chat on your website. People can chat with you. And it integrates with Slack as well, so you don't even have to go back to their website to chat with people, and you can just do it inside your Slack. And it's been amazing for us. Like, I never thought people would do it, but all the time people hop on our blog articles and then ask follow-up questions like, oh, hey, I saw you talked about lasers. What about this? And we've gotten leads from it. We've gotten more further helpings for it. We've gotten really cool introductions to people through it. Like, just an amazing thing to have on your website for sure. So Drift, or adding some sort of chat to your website, has been really awesome for us on a technology standpoint. One thing I've been really enjoying, I haven't talked about this, is I'm actually enjoying you guys in full widescreen ultra wideness. As I actually have an ultra wide monitor. I think it's the LG 34 UC98 or something model like that, and it's an ultra wide monitor. If you just Google ultra wide monitor, these things are amazing, and mine's actually curved as well. And a lot of people are not fans of curved monitors. I think they're awesome for desktop monitors, horrible for TVs. But because of this, I have so much screen real estate. And for you guys out there, if you're using one single screen right now, I can't imagine you trying to watch this show, use Twitter, write an email, do things multiply at the same time. Right now I have our tweet deck up so I can chat with you guys on Twitter. I have GoToWebinar up. I have Slack up. I have all these, and some empty space as well. I'm not like completely dozing out on you guys, but grabbing like a really good, nice monitor, because you're going to spend hours staring at this thing. Building out and having a great monitor for you to look at, and ultra-wide monitors are awesome. But I'm going to tee that up on top of that and say, get a standing desk, because you're spending 8 to 10 hours, sometimes event planners 12 hours a day in front of this thing. Don't be sitting down. It's like, they say it's our generation smoking, like horrible, bad for you. Google why an event planner needs a standing desk. I wrote a blog post on it as well, and some tips. But grab a standing desk. Yes, the stool is out. And like when I'm doing video calls too, I rock and I move around, and I'm more energetic because of it too, instead of just sitting here and like listening to what you're saying. So that's really huge. And I'm using actually a permanent desk instead of one that goes up and down. Some people think you have to have an expensive like $1,000 desk that goes up and down. I'm using an IKEA desk that you can buy for like $200, and it's the Calyx series with the squares shells, and then attaches a wood to it and a leg, and boom, you're done. It's like $200 out the door, done. So highly recommend standing desk. More resources. Oh my gosh, we're going over time. I'm like supposed to be the host. I should be good at this.
Resource boy, here you go.
Let me think if there's any other cool resources. Home automation stuff is really awesome as well. A lot of really cool things. So for example, I'm able to turn the lights on blue behind me because I use the hue bulbs. I'm able to use my Harmony remote, so when I hit watch a movie, it turns down all my lights simultaneously, it locks my door, turns on my TV, my receiver, my PlayStation 4, all at simultaneously. I use my August lock, so I don't have to give keys out. People can unlock my doors remotely. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with home automation, and that's more the geeky side of me than is the helpful side of me. And the last thing I will provide as a resource is, actually because I'm going to write a blog post about this, is check out this at not CES. We didn't have the CES a couple weeks ago. I forget what show it was. There was a huge mobile congress or one of the big event tech shows, and there was a ton of really cool technologies that were created by Wacom, IBM's Lenovo's Yoga Pad, and Mont Blanc, and they all developed augmented paper technologies that allow you to take notes on your paper and live transcribe them into your phone. And I know planners, a lot of planners live and die by paper and drawing on floor plans and everything like that. But you don't want to use a scanner or whatever you have to do. It takes too much time. Check out augmented paper technologies. I think Wacom came out with a really good one. It's only like $100, and it literally goes right into it. And you guys might have seen LiveScribe, where you can write with a pen, and then it goes and uploads later. This is all using pressure sensitive, so it's all live. So literally, as you draw, it goes live into your phone. So really cool. I'll probably be writing a blog about it soon because I think it's super helpful for planners to have as well. So Yoga Pad, Wacom Smart Pads, or whatever they're called, and Mont Blanc did some augmented power. Obviously, the Mont Blanc one's going to be expensive too.
I'll be watching for that blog post.
I dropped the mic, but it's attached to a stand.
Yeah, I'll drop my computer, and that's not a good idea. Or my phone, because it's your mic. Hey! That's right. So, awesome. Another show. We're a little bit over time. We appreciate those that stayed. Go tell your friends. Go tell your whoever. Come watch EventIcons. We've got some really, really good shows. We leaked a little bit about them. I mean, there's some great guests. Awesome topics. We'd love your questions beforehand, right? If you have a topic you want to talk about or a question you want to answer, we'll go find the person. We'll hunt them down. So really appreciate everybody on the show. Tune in next week. We've got some cool stuff coming.
Bye, everyone.
Adios. Que les vaya bien. Did you know I speak Spanish?